Remember back when we said we're going to fuck it up? Just don't fuck it up that way.
So there are many ways that we can fuck this up.
So all that gold that we did just now is lost. So you know what? I think it's great. It's good that all the gold that we spewed out just now is lost. It's
forever.
gone.
It's gone forever.
It didn't even go into the ether.
No.
Nobody can steal it.
That's right. No one can steal it. But we know nobody steals anything from us ever. So, yeah.
I think that was a great way to restart our show with a technical, not a glitch, a technical fuck up.
An absolute fuck up.
Yes.
An absolute fuck up. We said before, we're not going to fuck it up that way.
They'll fuck it up some other way.
We'll fuck it up a different way, which is what we did.
We did not know what the way it was going to be that we're going to fuck it up.
But it did get fucked up.
But it did get fucked up. And not intentionally. It was completely unintentional.
So, good evening, friends and neighbors, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome. You know what? I forgot the stuff. Hello. It should be about something, and we're just setting up some drinks. If you're joining us for the first time, this is what we do. So get your slurps together.
Recap what we said just now.
Go for it.
Because nobody heard it.
That's right.
Even like the people joining us for the first time.
All that gold is gone.
Slurping in the background. Didn't know there were slurpers until you didn't say. You said it, but they didn't hear it.
Yeah.
But now it's all post-factual.
Yeah.
It's all like Schrodinger's Jimisms. Like, he said them and he didn't say them at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the only one who heard them.
Slurp, slurp, everybody. Is it working? We shouldn't be watching this. We should be
watching the other one.
God damn it, people.
We should be watching this one.
Mm-hmm. And it's so over. Yeah, slurp, slurp.
Yum. So, relearning how to do things.
Relearning how to do things.
Have you ever not driven a car for a long time and then driven a car for the first time?
Yes.
And you're kind of glad that you don't have to do it in traffic?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
That's a little bit what this feels like.
Except we're
in traffic.
We're totally in traffic. We just ran the show into a tree.
But nobody gets killed on the show.
All right, we're going to recap really quickly. We welcome everybody. We say hi. We tell them all that it's 8:30 on Thursday and it's in Vienna and that this is episode number 72 and the show is called It Should Be About Something. We're really glad that everyone came here and then we try to catch each other up on what's been going on. Since the last show, it was October. There's a lot to catch up on, but I'm not sure if we're going to spend any more time on that because we just did it all. No, I'm kidding. We're going to do that. Michael, how you been since October?
It's difficult to get things in line because so much has happened. Like I've forgotten. I've lost the thread. Actually,
right.
I could kind of say random things.
Sure.
But I couldn't put them in order.
I hear you. Give me a highlight. Give me something that pops into your head.
I broke my toe twice. The same
highlight.
Toe twice.
Same toe twice. Highlight. Nice. If that's the highlight, I don't want to know what the low light is.
Well, you said what pops into my head.
I hear you.
And it is a highlight.
It is.
It's like, but it's not a good thing, but it's a highlight. It's like.
It was highlighted.
Okay, so here's the highlight, actually.
Okay, good.
I broke my toe twice.
Yes.
And then our insurance broker came to redo the car insurance because we moved, right? So you get new plates.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, why are you limping? And I'm like, I broke my toe. And he's like, you're insured for that. You get money. So that was the highlight.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I hurt my rib.
Do you have insurance?
I do have insurance. I should find out if I can get something from my rib. I was doing one of those stupid things like...
But you have accident insurance.
Yeah, of course I do.
Of course I do.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Of course I do.
Of course I do. No, I don't know if I do. Yeah, I should check it. I'm sorry to hear about your toe. What else was a highlight?
I went to see the eye doctor, and the eye doctor thought I'd had a stroke or a heart attack or both. Mm-hmm. And so I spent 3 days in hospital.
Did you die?
No. After 3 days, they were like, okay, so you're not dead. But we don't know why. We don't know why.
We don't know why you're not dead. You should have been dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm slowly starting to believe that perhaps you think that the word highlight means medical issue.
Well, I kind of thought, I've been thinking about that a lot. I think the medical issues, right? And I've realized that it has been 20 years since the last time I had a real medical issue.
Really?
So maybe this is a cycle. Maybe it's a cyclical thing.
A cyclical thing.
So
a typically cyclical thing? A typically cyclical thing?
A typically cyclical sick thing.
A typically cyclical
sickly thing.
Sick thing. A typically cyclical sick thing.
A typically cyclical sickly thing.
A typically cyclical sickly.
You said tit. He said tit. I heard you say tit. So which means I've got a free pass for the next 20 years.
Oh, okay. So your cycle is going to come around in 20 years.
My cycle's 20 years.
I see. Okay. I like it. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. What was a low light?
I only got to play 2 of the English Lovers shows. I wanted to play more of them. Yeah. I know I wasn't going to be able to play all of them, but I was definitely planning on playing more than 2.
Michael's talking about the English Lovers show. What was our show called this year?
The Christmas show?
Yeah.
Isn't it always just the Christmas show?
Of course it's not always called the Christmas show.
I can't remember the title as much as he can't remember the title. But I'm the one taking the fucking brunt.
At least I know that it's not always called the Christmas show.
I was making that up because I can't remember the title. You can't remember the title.
I can remember the title.
So what was the title?
The title was The Silver Bells Ball.
There we are.
The Silver Bells Ball. And it was the first Christmas show that we got to do in front of real people in 3 years. And it was amazing.
Really nice.
We did 31 shows in 17 days.
Nobody got sick. Oh, no, that's not true.
That's not
Anne
true.
got sick.
Anne got sick.
But she might not have got sick.
Sophie got hurt for a while.
She hurt her foot.
I was actually the only English lover to do all 31 shows.
What does this say about your cycle?
I was pumped for it. I was really pumped for it. I in fact, in all of that month, from the 1st to the 22nd, I played 34 shows, 35 shows.
Dang.
And I was like,
there's more shows than the month has days.
Yeah. We were playing 3 shows a day, very often.
You like Guns N' Roses in the late 80s.
I was into it right at the beginning, and I gave up drinking. I didn't drink at all through that whole thing.
I hate it when he does that.
I was eating well.
It's no fun.
I was like in marathon mode, and I stayed healthy and got through the whole thing.
It's a good thing I wasn't there, actually, because you were sober the whole time. It would have been a complete pain in the ass.
Our wonderful friend Inbal Lori, who came to us from Berlin,
crazy.
And she's crazy and wonderful and crazy wonderful.
She's
and
so crazy.
She was fantastic.
She's really crazy.
Why are you saying she's crazy like that?
She will kill you.
Yeah, well, that's true. She will take you out with her eyebrow, with all her massage training. I'm actually going up to Berlin in January to play with her and Lee in How Convenient.
How convenient.
How convenient.
That is convenient.
Yeah. So the Lover Show was a huge highlight for me. I'm sorry it was a low light for you.
Is it a sitcom? How convenient.
Exactly. It's a sitcom. How Convenient.
Sounds like a sitcom.
It is. How Convenient is an improvised sitcom that is set in a Berlin Späti.
Oh,
so
sweet.
A late night convenience store.
Okay, so it was a low light for me that I didn't get to play many shows, but it was a highlight that I played. The 2 shows that I played were very, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
The first show, like everybody else, was like, it was like a meh show, and I was just like fucking pumped to have been there. And my colleague who was in said to me then, like the next day, I was like, so it was apparently it was like an okay show. She was like, fucking hell, that was awesome. Every time I thought of the one thing that you kind of got as an ask for at the beginning of the show that was like half an hour ago, it popped up magically in the scene.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, good. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got to play a 4-year-old, but it was kind of fun.
We got so much great feedback, and it was just fantastic to be in the room again, and it was such a difference. What was also super interesting was we did a whole bunch of shows for kids, So students, between 14 and 20. And that was super interesting. We had a very weird learning curve because before the pandemic, sometimes you get a tough class or a class that was, a little like rowdy at the beginning, but always by the end of that show, they would be with us and we would have them and they'd be rocking with us. And the first bunch of school shows that we did, we weren't getting them. And it was crazy. And we had all these dang, okay, so what do you think it is? And everyone was like, well, it's the pandemic, it's this, and this. And then we ended up changing everything that we did. I said, okay, I want to just turn everything on its head. And we turned everything around and did this whole different way of doing it. And we started to get them.
And what was it? They weren't kind of ready for things being in their face.
I think that's what it was. I think there was an intimacy that was being broken, or they weren't ready for. The liveness of the theater and the intimacy of that space. Years ago,
if you go and sit on their lap and go, ooh, that is kind of,
Well, which we weren't doing at all. I mean, just the normal stuff of saying, hey, well, how are you doing? It was too much. It was just crazy. And so I had a buddy who was an amazing musical performer. He could sing, he could dance, he could do the flick-flack. He looked like a Greek god. And every time he sang, it was like Robbie Williams. Balls to the wall and just fantastic, right? But he would do it wherever we were, whether he was singing in a concert or if it was just some people hanging out on a Sunday with an acoustic guitar in a living room. And when he would do that, it would just be, it's too much, man. It's just tone that shit.
Tone it down.
Yeah. And I had the feeling that that's what the students were like.
Right.
Where everything, even though it was, there was a little bit of safety, because they weren't in this sort of arena space where the stage is far away, there was no glass between them. That was super interesting.
Okay, they're not used to having Tom Jones in their living room.
They're not used to having anybody in their living room.
Yeah.
Let alone Tom Jones.
Yeah.
In any case, that was a super interesting thing.
Tom Jones is crazy too. I was listening to Tom Jones the other day.
Yeah.
And I think it was the most comprehensive listen I've ever given Tom Jones.
Okay.
I was driving somewhere and I had like an hour and a half and I was just listening to Tom Jones. And I think...
Wait a second, this sounds like a super sexy insertion.
I kept thinking coal miners and underwear. I was like thinking underwear, ladies' underwear, like actually not the kind of underwear that girls wear these days, like the bloomers, the kind of underwear that ladies wore in the 60s and 70s. And when I say ladies, I mean women who are over 30, throwing these at Tom Jones while he's covered in coal soot, sweating on a stage and singing "Why Delilah."
Wait a second. What's the difference between the underwear the ladies who were over 30 back then that were wearing and the ladies today?
You know what underwear used to be like in the 70s? Ladies' underwear in the 70s was more or less the same as men's underwear, it just didn't have the bulge in front. And sometimes it was in like...
It was all granny panties.
It was all...
It was just granny panties everywhere.
Sometimes they were pink. And sometimes they were yellow with flowers on them.
But still granny panties. Granny panty refers to the cut.
The cut.
Rather than the color or print. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you were imagining granny panties.
So I was imagining what it was like to be Tom Jones in 1972.
Right. Getting all those granny panties.
Getting all those granny panties thrown up on stage.
Yeah. And how was it?
Well, there were no sexier underwear back then. That was the sexy underwear, right? So it was like sexy enough.
I'm thinking at least the granny panties would make it to the stage. Like if you're trying
there's enough elastic.
Yeah. Well, like you could try to throw a thong, but there's no mass behind it. You can try to like spring a thong.
I always thought that's how you do it.
You spring the thong?
If
there are any people out there that have ever thrown underwear onto stage, how did you do it? We'd love to know.
This is a really good question because, like, if you're in the third row, and you want to throw your underwear up to Tom Jones, it's probably going to hit somebody in the first row. It's going to land on somebody's lap if you put a rock in it.
I actually saw a video recently of these teenage girls trying to throw underwear at like a K-pop group or something, and they were down in the front, but there was such a huge security space, a divide, a no man's land between their thing and the stage, that when they threw it, it just went directly to a security guard that was standing like, I don't know, maybe 2 meters away, and then he caught them and just threw them back in their face. I'm like, oh, come on, help a sister out. Just, relay that shit. Just relay that stuff onto the stage. Nope, right back in your face.
So what I'd like to know is, were the undies in their pockets?
I think they brought them specifically.
I think that's always been the case.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine being at a show and pulling your undies down?
Pulling them over your high heels.
You had to sit. You had to sit at concerts in the 60s and 70s. You weren't allowed to stand up. So if you wanted to take your panties off, you had to stand up and kind of wiggle your bottom. Everybody would see what you're doing. You had to get them off over your clunky shoes.
I think I'm discovering a fetish right now. That's all I want. I don't want to see any nudity. I just want to see that movement.
You want to see somebody wiggling. Somebody in the third row. You want to see from
their
the seventh
panties
row
off.
wiggling.
No, from the stage. From the stage. From the stage.
But you can't see their bum. They're wiggling.
Exactly. I don't need to see. I just need to see the wiggle.
You just want to see the wiggle.
Just the idea that the wiggle's happening. They're actually doing it.
That it's actually real underpants.
Yeah.
So when those fly my way, I'm going to move sideways. Somebody's been wearing.
I am going to literally catch an STD.
Yes.
So that was our week, our pastime since we haven't been around. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the It Should Be About Something chat is super friendly and super nice, and we're going to take a quick look and say hi to those people. Who's on here? Philly Girl 1000 says Mo Volume.
Mo Volume.
Yeah, we got it.
Mo Volume.
Yeah, we should have looked at this earlier. Pavlov's dog in the house. Hello, happy New Year.
Same old tech issues.
Follower of Clay in the house. No Volume dudes. Thank you. Verena, hello, Verena.
This is part of the new thing. Check your screen. Mm-hmm.
Check your screen.
Yeah, you see, we did this clever thing where we divided the screen and the chat. So we can now look at the chat separately.
Not really.
When we're looking at this, we're not.
Oh no, yeah, I guess we can.
We can.
This is what we're doing.
This is where we are, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Don't fuck it up.
Don't touch anything. Fucked it up.
All right, so Father of Clay, Silent Isbaz, yeah. Marcos is in the house.
Where are the slates?
Happy New Year. What?
Where are the slates?
Where are you?
Verena says, but where are the slates? We don't know what you're talking about, Verena. Like, spell it out in
I know, she's talking about silent music, and she's looking for the slate.
Oh, I see.
To write down, what the words are.
Ah,
Happy New Year to everybody, Marcus and Philly and Pablo's dog.
Oh,
okay, that's...
They thought we were in black and white.
Machado. Machado's in the house.
Yes, hello, much ado. Machado. So, I see.
Andrew is in the house.
Dang.
Hello.
We should have done the whole thing as a silent Isbaz.
Yeah.
Because we're in black and white.
And then...
we need live piano music.
Live piano music.
And inserts at the bottom. Jim said something like offensive to Michael.
Dunk. Yeah.
And that's why he's stabbing him in the head.
Okay.
So, the person who guesses what color this tie is gets a round of Isbaz stickers.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. So these are the folks in the chat so far. And if you're not in the chat and you're watching, come and say hi on the chat. Everyone's super friendly and nice. And, this whole show, It Should Be About Something, comes to you in 3 parts. And we call them chapters. And I think we should just get to the first chapter.
That worked like a mofo.
On the moments you fell in love with your job. So, we're assuming some things. We're assuming that you have a job. We're also assuming that you have fallen in love with it at some point. So, if those things are true for you, go ahead and write in the chat, when was a moment that you fell in love with your job? Michael, what do you think about that? Have you ever fallen in love with your job?
So right off the top of my head, what comes to mind is being in one show in Salzburg and flying to Kiev to do another show overnight, flying back the next morning to do a show
in Salzburg. And you love that.
And it was like the most intense weekend. Because Ukrainians love to drink. Like, I didn't sleep. I got there, I played my show, they took me out to watering holes. I got mega drunk. I went home, I slept for 20 minutes. The guy came, picked me up again, took me to the airport, flew me home.
Wow.
But it was great. It was a great show.
Yeah.
It was just a great experience. Like this, jetting about doing things.
You were a jet setter.
Well, not jet setter. I wouldn't say
come
jet setter.
on. You were all windswept and interesting.
I wasn't getting paid in Salzburg, really. I mean, I was getting paid, but I wasn't getting paid much. And I wasn't getting paid for being in Kiev. It was just,
It was just super cool.
They invited me to go there and play. And it was kind of...
Yeah.
They covered the costs of me going there.
I totally get that. When I was traveling intensely, I guess in a lot of ways I still am, but there was one time where I did 3 shows in 24 hours in 2 different countries. It was like I did like a show in Vienna in the morning, went to Zurich, did a gig, and then came back.
Yeah.
And that is kind of, I don't know, it feels cool.
It's like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I did it.
I do this almost for a living.
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely one of the moments that kind of sticks out as being something very particular to the kind of work that I do. Another moment
Yes.
when I fell in love with my job is when I got paid. I got paid the highest salary I've ever earned, and it was 6,000 euros for half an hour's worth.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. It was a voiceover gig.
Yeah, it was
wasn't it? Yeah, of course it was. Of course it was. Yeah, voiceover gigs are awesome. There was a moment when I fell in love with, I think, okay, so I got 2 things. One was, I'm thinking of my job just as being a performer. When I was younger and just finding ways, all the different ways to get what's in here and what's in here out here, and you do music and you do theater and you do this. And there was this halcyon day sort of moment where I'd been rehearsing and we came out of this dark underground theater that smelled of beer and whatever, and then got up and we're sitting on the hood of a car in the sunshine, having a smoke, drinking and shooting the shit, talking about stuff, but also about the show and things. And just that sense of camaraderie, in that low golden hour sunlight, where I thought
this is like every second rock music video in the 80s was shot this way.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like that. It was totally like that. And I thought, this is...
If you want to see what it looks like, go to YouTube, put in Johnny Diesel and the Injectors Soul Revival. It's exactly this.
And if you want to see it in the gray zone, go to Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. For years, I worked at this theater, or years ago, I worked at this theater that was right next to a river. And in the summer productions, we would be rehearsing, dancing late into the night. And then after the rehearsal, everyone would run down to the river, take off their clothes and go skinny dipping in the river just to cool off. And it was you know, it was like this is amazing. This can be a life. You can do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty damn cool. And I guess the other thing is just simply, I'm constantly falling in love with my job because I'm constantly
developing it. So there's always new things to fall in love with.
Yes, because I am a kind of person, I fall in love with people pretty easily. Like I get crushes on people pretty easily, not just romantic crushes, but like professional crushes, or I'm very open to meeting people.
Down all the time.
And I love, you know, just
sharing a dressing room with this man is terrible.
Seeing what the mix can be, you know, can I slap his balls hard enough that his nose hair falls out? No, what I mean is we have an opportunity to meet a lot of like-minded and unlike-minded friends and colleagues, and to have
audience.
Yes, but what I'm talking about right now is about the work part of it, you know, not the enjoyable performance part of it.
Well, what I'm saying is also, like and unlike-minded audiences as well.
Sure, but what my thing I'm trying to talk about is we have this opportunity to meet all of these people and to become incredibly intimate with them for a short amount of time.
And then thankfully go away.
And sometimes, but
sometimes it really is thankfully go away.
And
it's
sometimes
nice to
it's just, oh my God, where the hell did that person go? I want this person with me all the time.
And sometimes you think, exactly. Sometimes you think, I wish I'd met this person 20 years ago and we'd been hanging out all this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, because my job is so much about people, and because I love people, I'm constantly falling in love with people, I'm constantly falling in love with my job. In a lot of ways. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel because the what I do keeps developing and changing. There's always new aspects to it. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for new avenues to follow that keeps it extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Which makes me keep falling in love with what I do, yeah.
Even tonight, when we were setting up here in the gray zone, which is not the optimal place.
This is the gray zone. You can't touch it. It looks like it's there, but it's not. See, I can't touch it. It's not there.
Yeah, a lot like.
It's exactly,
my respect for
exactly like that.
And
you can't touch this.
Can't touch.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Can't touch this. But even tonight, setting up in the gray zone, the act of setting up, I love it. Even though we fuck it up, I love it.
There was this moment where I thought, dang, we got this done really quickly. And it was so professional.
And then we were still late and still fucked it up. Anyway, let's take a look at the chat and see what people are saying about what
you missed the silent film part.
What?
It's like a follow-up. Clay's like, you missed the silent film part. Andrew's like, sorry, I'm late. Meeting ran long. You missed the silent film part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me about tough classes. Oh, Pavlov's dog, the teacher. Yeah, absolutely. I am not allowed to tell how I throw my underwear.
Thongs don't fly well. Yeah. Not practical for throwing.
Yeah, that's what I meant, but maybe for flinging.
I wonder, are thongs practical for anything?
Are thongs practical for anything?
Like, have you ever worn a thong?
I myself have never worn a thong. I know you have. You've worn a thong.
How do you know that?
Because you've told me this story many times. And then...
What story?
That you wore a thong because you had this girlfriend that was kind of into it.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah.
I told you that.
Yeah. I think you've told everybody that. And then you're always surprised every time you bring it up.
I should drink less when I do his best.
Yeah.
But they're not practical. They're the opposite of practical.
They're the opposite of practical.
Like, they're nice to look at on other people.
Absolutely. Down with the thong.
Or they make other people nice to look at. Like, I'm not looking at the thong when someone's wearing a thong, frankly.
I hear you, but you are. You know, the thong frames it. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but I'm
right?
not looking at the thong. I'm looking at the bits that the thong is not on.
Yeah. You completely block out the thong. The thong is even not a part of it. You see the thong, man. You see the thong. I mean, you may not be focusing on the thong.
Yeah, okay, I get the framing bit.
Yeah.
I'm not focusing on the thong.
Exactly. Now we've got a whole bunch of people because you and your big Spendierhosen says whoever can guess the color of your tie gets a pack of stickers. The first guess that came up was Rose, and Rose is wrong. The Rosa is wrong. I'm going to say Silver is wrong, and
Pale pink is wrong.
Is wrong. However, Philly Girl 1000, your first guess was totally right.
Are you sure? You'd call this yellow?
That's absolutely yellow. Are you going to come to me with mustard or something?
No, I would have said it's gold.
No,
Okay,
I think it's
yellow.
more yellow than it is gold.
Philly Girl 1000, you win a set of Isbaz stickers. They'll be coming to you in the mail.
And
Don't send us your mail address. We already have it.
And since Verena got hers without having to second guess her second guess, I think we should send Verena some stickers as well. In fact, I know we should because...
Do we still have some of those nice stickers from the English Lover Show?
No. But you're going to get some Isbaz stickers, which we still have some of, I'm sure.
Oh, we have Isbaz stickers.
Yeah. And that's what she's going to get.
Tons of Isbaz stickers. That's why I'm giving them away free.
Yeah, well, Marcus says, in answer to our question, when I could negotiate pay raises for my subordinates, that's when you fell in love with your job.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
He's a socialist.
Well, no, that's what a manager should be the voice of their employees, their subordinates, as it were. But very often the manager is kowtowing and licking the boots of the people above him. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Follower of Clay.
He's a man who cares.
Moment 1, the improv show, part of Momenta, with Uncle Jim and Anne and Karen from Munich and others. I knew this was my thing, improvising with light. It was that show? Oh, come on. I remember that show. That show was
crazy
called...
Karen from Munich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a show called something like Alles will zum Leben hin. Alles wird zum Leben hin, irgend sowas.
Alles zieht zum Leben hin?
Yeah, something like that. It was a really fun show. It was really
Sounds like
cool.
a Schrodinger's show.
Yeah. It was abstract and it was, used abstraction and it used some concrete stuff and there was several sort of stories.
Some was live and some wasn't.
No, it was all live.
Yes.
Oh, because of your Schrödinger joke. I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Wow. I did not know that. I mean, but you've been doing lights for shows for a long time up till then. But that was the time that you fell in love with it. I love it.
When you know the moment that somebody else is describing.
Yeah.
Because you were in the moment as well.
I was in that moment.
That's a sweet thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Verena says she falls in love over and over again every time I'm on stage or on set. Yeah, see? Yeah, totally. Moment 2, being part of the whole Magic Monday show thing that runs since... Yes! Yeah. Who was I just talking to recently? Follower of Clay. They were... Wow. I was talking to Ferdinand of Tag, where we performed...
Ferdinand of Tag.
And
sounds like a knight.
He had Siegfried and Joy play there for a long time and then got them into the Rabenhof. And so now they're playing the Rabenhof. Nice. Yeah.
Ferdinand of Tag.
Ferdinand von Tag. What else we got here?
Did you ever play the Settlers? No. The
Zettler von Catan?
Yeah, that's it. There's those knights that have names like that. Ferdinand of Tag.
Do they?
Ferdinand ohne Land.
Ferdinand ohne Land.
Josef vom Baum.
I'm Ferdinand ohne Land. I like Ferdinand ohne Land.
I like what Philly Girl's saying. The first time she was part of bringing life into the world and the first time she was part of bringing life back into the world.
Yeah.
Dang.
Philly Girl was a nurse and did anything a nurse ever did. Philly Girl did
all the things.
She did all of the things. In fact, she was like the head nurse of a unit that was basically the super nurses. It was like the nurses that could go and work
The ones with the capes.
Yeah. Oh, she had a cape in the 60s. All nurses had capes in the 60s. Didn't they? Most of them had capes in the 60s. Tell me, Philly Girl, did you have a cape in the 60s? Were you like Batgirl? Batgirl. And
Batman has a cape, but he can't fly. And I've always thought the capes kind of make you fly.
Oh, I see. No, capes don't make you fly. Capes help you fly because
But he can't fly.
But he can't fly. No, he uses his cape for a different reason. Yeah, he uses it not for flying.
Not for flying.
No,
it doesn't help him to fly
for
either.
Subterfuge.
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 Subterfuge as well. Both subterfuge and septifuge.
Subterfuge.
I think septifuge is when you avoid skepticism. Sepsis. Septifuge is when you avoid sepsis.
Except sepsis.
Ask Philly Girl, she knows. She's a
typically cyclical, sickly sickness.
This is the part that was in the...
Don't let them know that.
That was in the black and white.
Oh, man. It was in the silence.
It was in the silent bit. What?
Alles strebt zum Leben hin. That was the name of the show.
That's nice, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Verena says, again, fell in love doing reels for Instagram. So if you're on Insta, everyone should be following Verena, and she does these reels. Have you seen her reels?
I have.
Funny
I
stuff.
follow Verena on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm a follower of Verena.
A follower of Verena. Follower of Clay, that was one of my first that was one of your first proper improv shows. Dang.
It's like learning about people.
Yeah, I thought you'd been doing lights for the Theaterturbine for a long time. Super cool. Philly Girl definitely, and a cap. Oh, she definitely had a cape and a cap. She had a cape and a cap. She had a cap with an E and a cape without an E. Cap, cape, cap. Cape, cap, cape.
Cape Canaveral.
Cape Canaveral.
Cape Capanaveral.
Canaveral Levine.
Canaveral Levine, come to my party.
Canaveral Levine, come to my party. Cape Canaveral Levine.
What happened to Avril Lavigne?
Avril Lavigne. Okay, so here's a funny thing. Bronwyn Lee Matz Pensingham of the English Lovers, back in the day when Avril Lavigne's first album came out.
Skater Boy?
With Skater Boy. I said, see you later, boy. When that album first came out, she was like, I love her. She's going to have a huge career. And I was like, there is no way this woman is going to have a huge career.
And she's like disappeared.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was Pat Benatar's birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
She turned 70.
Well, this sounds like a super sexy insertion.
We're having more than one super sexy insertion? Haven't we already had one?
We can have super sexy insertions all the time.
We can insert as many as we like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
you can get all the fingers in there.
Because what we were trying to do is we were trying to finish that chapter, but we were going to have a super sexy insertion to talk about Pat Benatar. Go. You got 30 seconds.
Well, that's basically it, actually. Pat Benatar, who turned 70 yesterday, she's almost as old as my mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was watching. So I went.
Kathy's as old as Pat Benatar.
That's right. And
holy shit, right?
That
holy
really
shit.
puts things in perspective.
It really does. Yeah.
Because when I was like 14, 15, I was a pretty big Pat Benatar fan. I thought she was great. All of her songs were like raunchy and not quite as convinced now. I went back and kind of watched a lot of stuff. It was pretty good. It was like solid. But I can't say I'm as enamored as I was back then.
Yeah.
But great that she's still doing it.
Yeah, fantastic.
I found live footage from 2019.
And that was your sexy insertion from Uncle Mike about Pat Benatar. And we finished our chapter 1 because we've decided we're always constantly falling in love with our jobs. And if you can help your subordinates make more money, then you'll fall in love with your job too. Do more lights. Philly girl with a cape. Yeah.
Philly girl with a K.
With a cape, not with a K.
Philly curl.
Philly curl. Jesus Christ. And we're moving on to chapter 2.
I know, I can see the clock. Yeah.
On compromise.
Keep it tight, Jim.
Compromise.
I think we should compromise and just leave chapter 2 out because we're so over. We'll just go to chapter 3. How's that for a compromise?
We got time. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. No. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay. So, compromise. What do we think about compromise?
Yeah, what do you think about compromise? Like, this is your chapter. Like, this was your idea.
I always love it that it's always my chapter when he doesn't have a good idea about it right away. So here's our question about compromise. What's the best way to make a compromise? What do you think about compromises?
Our compromise is good.
Should we compromise?
Yeah.
Or should we just
come
for the promise?
How hard should we fight for a compromise?
Yeah.
It's like, there are levels of compromise, I guess.
My position has been compromised. That's a different...
Our security has been compromised.
That's very different. That's very different, yeah. So Marcus says right away, the least popular and most important thing. Yeah, because, okay, so what are the classic things they say about compromise? A compromise is when nobody's happy.
But it's the only way forward.
Yeah. Have you...
I think that is the thing in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You're never happy about it, but it's the only way forward. So actually you should be happy about it because it's the only way forward.
Yeah, I wonder. I suppose so. And why is that? Is it because people will not let go of their idea in place of a better idea?
Because we have this vision of our lives that is always a perfectly scripted novel. Mm-hmm. It's straight ahead. It's a linear thing. It's an idea that goes somewhere. And actually, life is higgledy-piggledy, going all over the place. It backtracks on itself. It goes in circles. That's what makes it interesting. And all those things are the compromises. And all of it, even if it's backtracking on itself, is forward motion. So as long as you've got development, and compromise is always development, I think, then you should always be happy because it's always forward movement.
Yeah. Better is good.
Movement is good.
Movement, I suppose so. Okay, so
change is good.
Yeah. Yeah, you're jumping too far from me. You're jumping too far from me. Let's stick with compromise for a second.
Change within the boundaries of interpersonal relationships.
Yeah. But before we get to change, because I think change gets too far away from it for me at the moment. So, compromise being a way that when we think of compromise, it's I have a position, the other person has a position. These two positions are not jiving. One person is not going to let go of their position, and so we have to relent bits of our position until we can find...
Well, both people are not going to let go of their position.
Exactly. Yeah, no one's going to let go of their position, and so we have to let go bits of it until there's a compromise. Mm-hmm. And I wonder... So, for example, is there in a compromise that you have made... explicitly, like an explicit compromise that you've made in your relationship with your wife, for example?
I couldn't name one, but I'm constantly compromising.
If you had your way, if you had your druthers, she would just toe the line and do what she is told.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a marketplace of ideas. It's not like, here's a problem. She says this is a solution. You say this is a solution, and then you do the best solution.
We do the best we can with both solutions, like crashing and burning.
Constantly trying to combine solutions.
That's right.
So in Richard Feynman's book, Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. Richard Feynman is a famous physicist, worked on the Manhattan Project, and there's this beautiful book that he wrote called Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, which, if you haven't read it, I can highly recommend it. It's filled with little short stories about this incredibly intelligent and quirky man and the way he looks at life. And fantastic. In any case, he was talking about a story where it was at a meeting in Nevada somewhere for the Manhattan Project. And he's 22 years old. They pull him out of college, out of university, and he's sitting at a table with like Niels Bohr and Oppenheimer and, you know, just like the creme
Did they pull him out of college because he was so brilliant, or because they needed people to do the calculations for Niels Bohr?
No. He was
so brilliant.
Yeah.
He
By
was
the time
already
he,
brilliant at that point.
By the time he was like 22 or 23, he had already won a Nobel Prize for, you know, economics or something. It was crazy. You know, he was just super smart kid. But he says he comes into this room, and some question came up, something of discussion.
Yeah.
And he describes the scene where everyone around the table sort of gives their solution to it. And then he said, and now he was ready for the discussion. And he said, I knew that I was in the presence of truly great people because after everyone had said their thing, there was a silence, and then I think Bohr, one of the dudes, says, well, I think John's idea is the best. And everyone just sort of went, yep, okay. And then they all stood up and left the room. And Feynman says, I just sat there still at the table going, what the hell happened? Where was the discussion? Where was the debate? And then he was like, okay, none of them had
Niels
anything.
Bohr is God.
No. It was more like none of them had anything to defend.
Yeah.
They were just like, okay.
They just accepted that was the best idea.
Yeah, and now we're just going to go with that.
Right.
And I always come back
so
to
there was
that.
So you think there's no ego involved in holding on to your idea?
Right, and so there was no compromise in that sense. There was just, rather than trying to take bits of, you know, and so
there's
I'm
no
wondering,
defending of your idea.
Exactly, and so I'm wondering how much of compromise, and I guess it's always contextual, but how much of compromise is really just saving face?
Right. I think there's a lot of that. Definitely in workplace situations a lot of the time, and in personal relationships. You know, you can't let your partner win. You can't. That's the way it is.
Because there's a whole tally happening.
Of course there is. Have you seen that Modern Family episode where the husband is trying to teach the wife to use the remote control for the TV? And no, I think they're trying to teach the daughter to use the remote control for the TV, right? And at some point, the mother comes to the daughter because she's now learnt to use the remote control for the TV. And she says, teach me how to use the remote control for the TV. And the daughter's like, why don't you just ask Dad? I'm busy. And she's like, I can't ask your dad.
Yeah, you can't ask him.
Right.
Because he'll win. Yeah,
and
that
because
means
then
he wins.
you can't let him win, right?
Yeah. Okay, I hear you. Yeah. I think there is definitely parts of that in relationships, absolutely.
Right. You need to chalk up something at least.
Yeah. But, you know, very often that moment of do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Sure.
Comes. And I think
but that's pure compromise.
That's absolutely.
That's
what I mean.
You want to be happy, right? Absolutely.
Well, then I'm going to compromise. I kind of like what Philly Girl is saying here. Compromise as long as it does not compromise you, which is a nice twist and change of those, you know, nice little recontextualization of those words. Also, Pavlov dogs compromise. I have to grade papers, but I do it drinking wine and watching Isbaz.
Is that really a compromise? I think that's a way of life.
So my sister often.
Which one?
Catherine.
And your sisters are both younger than you.
All three of my sisters.
You have three?
Yeah.
This is news.
It's not. I tell him all the time. He just does not remember.
I know Catherine and Mary.
Yeah.
What's the other one's name?
Margaret.
Oh, that's right.
There was
let's call it 2.5.
There were 2.5. 55. So, if you don't know 55, if anyone out in the chat can please put in a link to the YouTube of 55, which was a very early YouTube hit. Anyway, there was years where I would, in shows, I would just use their names for characters all the time. Mm-hmm. Maybe you remember that. Like Bronwyn used to do. Bronwyn used to name every male character in every show that she was in Jeremy. And then
I remember that.
Yeah, and then she got pregnant with her second son, and when he was born, she named him Jeremy. And
what?
We all
I thought it was after that.
No, it was before. And then after he was born and she named him Jeremy, we were all like, oh, well, finally, you get to use the name. She was like, what do you mean? I just came up with Jeremy. And we're like, no, you have been calling people in every show Jeremy for years now. And she was like, what?
She'd been gestating that one egg.
Yeah.
One egg.
That one egg. Gonna name it Jeremy. Marcus says, most of the time people need something bigger than themselves in order to be able to compromise.
I think that's a very good way of explaining what happened in that Manhattan Project situation that you described. Because there's people there, because there's people of knowledge who are knowledgeable about everything that's going on in that situation, just going, that's the best solution for the problem we have.
Yeah.
And can look past the fickleness of
well, that's the thing, or just
their own ego, or well, this is my idea, this is a good, that's the best solution. Let's go with that. Right?
Yeah. For me, that it is totally about not having to fight for status, and it's totally about being open to the best case scenario. So, like, how many times have you been to a meeting and somebody, the question is there a blue car outside? Mm. And then people say, well, I've seen a blue car, and then some other guy's like, well, I've seen two blue cars.
Turquoise.
Yeah, and then there's the weird guy that was like, I've seen a red car, until somebody actually goes and looks out the window and says, oh yeah, there is a blue car outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Compromise. It's, I think, something that we need to be able to do, but we don't always have to do it. Because sometimes we can just let it go.
Chapter 3.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. That was chapter 2. We're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to...
Well, should we have another look at the chat before we go?
Oh, I thought we did that. I think we kind of did that. Compromise.
Wise decision. Drinking and grading people's papers is a wise decision.
Yeah.
Pavlov. Wise. Shaper of young minds.
As I said, I think that we did a good job with number 2. So we're going to move on to a word to our sponsors. And while that's happening, I'm going to run and get some mixers.
Spelled slurpy with a double P. Well, certainly yours.
Back to the show.
Yeah, we're back.
Whoa, that was so fast.
He got mixers.
I did.
We got himself a mixer.
I already had your mixer.
I appreciate you getting my mixer.
Yeah.
This show has so many little tag-ons and things to remember, and I forgot most of them.
That's how that goes. So, like we said, That was a word to our sponsor. Before we move on to
our sponsor.
That's a word to our sponsors.
To our sponsor. The one.
Yeah. And it's you.
It's you.
You are our sponsor.
What is chapter 3?
Well, before we get to chapter 3, what we forgot to talk about is slurp slurp.
Yes, definitely. There's loud music on that. You can slurp. You can slurp loudly.
What we forgot to talk about was if we're going to come back again.
Oh, yes. Here's my suggestion.
Yeah.
I'm going to say every first and third Thorsday of the month.
That's some big words to say live on air.
That's like the gold standard. I'd like to try that.
I think we might have to find a compromise. I'd like the idea of trying to get in 2 a month. We're going to have to see how that goes. We're going to have to look at all the Thursdays coming up. But
sure.
we're gonna make it happen.
Well,
we're definitely
the thing is, we have the second and fourth Fridays are late nights.
Yeah.
Which is why I want to kind of go a week.
See, I would go with those ones because then we're...
You want to go, whoa, because that means you're here. I see.
But this is all stuff we should have done before the show started. We could compromise.
That's compromisable. I think we can talk about that.
We're going to find a compromise on that. What else do we need to talk about?
Bad idea, actually. I do understand.
We're going to get Verena. Do we have Verena's address to send her stickers? Do we have Philly Girl's address to send her stickers?
Yes.
Okay. And if anybody else out there would like to have some stickers, hit us up on the PayPal. We'll send you some stickers. It feels weird to talk about that again because it's been
you
so
sponsor.
long.
If you want.
You our sponsor. If you want to sponsor us, we'll send you some stickers.
Maybe we need to get some new stickers.
Speaking of sponsors, I saw one of our sponsors not too long ago, Jeff Vina and his wife and their new child Charlotte.
Yeah, but you saw Mr. Perkins as well.
And I saw Mr. Perkins.
That's right. I'm really sorry we didn't get to meet up.
That's the craziest part. Yeah. He was kind of in and out.
Craziest December.
Had some stuff happening, but Mr. Perkins made it to Vienna, and that was fantastic. It was really good to see him.
Yeah. I'm sorry that it didn't happen. Next time.
Yeah. Okay, then let's move on to our third and final chapter. Chapter 3. On finding out blank wasn't real. So basically what we're talking about here is when you found out that whatever it was that you thought was real wasn't in fact real. When was a moment that you found out something that you thought was real wasn't real? When I think of this, the first thing that pops into my head is not when I found out Santa Claus isn't real. When I found out the Tooth Fairy wasn't real. Really? And I'd like to tell you the story. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say I'm 11. I'm going to say this is in the time of my parents getting divorced. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say we went, me, my mom, and my sisters went to see and visit my mom's best friend, who I would call Aunt.
It sounded like you said you went to see.
Oh, no, we didn't go to see. We went to visit my mom's best friend, who I called Aunt Sam, Samantha.
But she was not related to you. She was your mom's best friend.
It was my mom's best friend, but I called her Aunt Sam, even though Sam wasn't her name. It wasn't even Samantha. Her name was Sharon, but she was Aunt Sam.
Ah, interesting.
And Aunt Sam was a very cool...
Aunt
Sam was very cool. Do you remember the TV show China Beach?
Kinda.
Do you remember the actress Dana Delaney?
I do. It's like difficult to not remember her.
Okay. Aunt Sam was basically Dana Delaney in China Beach.
Okay.
Aunt Sam was cool. And I remember...
She was also hot, quite obviously.
Oh yeah, Aunt Sam was super
mega hot.
So we'd gone down to visit, and I remember I was sleeping on a floor in a sleeping bag at the end of a long hall. And I'm at one end of the hall with my face sort of in the doorway, looking down this long hallway. And at the end of the long hallway was the kitchen. Between me and the kitchen, it was dark, and the kitchen was lit. Mm-hmm. And in the kitchen, the kids were in bed.
Mm-hmm. Your mom and
my mom
Elena were getting drunk.
And Aunt Sam were getting drunk, talking. Mm-hmm. And I had lost a tooth, I guess, at that time. Mm-hmm. And I remember listening to them talk about
the reveal.
How much, how do you leave a quarter under the pillow? We leave $1. I don't remember what the details were, but I remember listening to that conversation. And I also kind of remember just being like a super sensitive antenna at that time, because my parents were fucked up with one another, and shit was, my world was going weird. But I remember listening to this conversation, and I remember being so angry and so saddened, not because I realized that the tooth fairy wasn't real. Yeah. But because I realized that my mom could lie to me.
Oh, I see. Right.
That it hadn't even been an option. Like,
okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
I
understand.
Mom doesn't lie to you. Your mom doesn't lie. Why would your mom lie to you? Your mom is truthful. She's always saying to you to be truthful. We're truthful to each other,
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing, oh shit, not only could she, but she has been for a long time.
And as a parent, you have to do that.
Oh sure. Oh yeah. There's tons of lies
all the
you
time.
have to tell children.
You have to do it all the time.
Yeah. When I'm teaching
my
adults,
kids don't even understand English,
and I'm lying to. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you're lying to kids all the time. We lie to them, but it was at that moment that I realized that was a thing. That it was. Oh shit. Oh what.
Yeah.
Oh,
how dare you?
Yeah, and I remember crying my eyes out, being so saddened by that, just being so ultimately disappointed. Yeah. So, I've gotten over it.
Have you? Have you? Do you need a hug?
I do. I need a hug. I need a hug. Oh man.
Hug it out.
Yeah. I gotten over it, but it was definitely something that stuck with me.
It's interesting that you mentioned the tooth fairy, because I remember around about, must have been 9 or 10, my mom and my dad in the hallway outside of the kids' room discussing how much of the small change in their combined wallets was going to go in my slipper for the tooth that I'd lost. And they were like, it's like, how much have you got? I've got.
And you heard them saying it?
Yeah. Because I was awake.
Yeah.
Right? I was one of those kids that you'd put to bed and I'd be awake for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Just hearing things going on.
Yeah.
Antennas like this.
Yeah.
Couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I think all through my childhood I got sent to bed at least 2 hours too early because I just wasn't fucking tired. I was lying in bed going...
And that's where I learned how to masturbate.
Yeah, maybe later. It's where I learned to make up stories.
Oh, yeah.
I used to lie in bed making myself cry.
Oh, my sister used to do that. She would call it practicing.
I'd be acting in some play or in like a TV show or something.
Yeah.
And then I'd make myself cry.
Yeah. I would make up stories, songs. I would sing those to myself over and over to remind myself of them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, the kids haven't started talking yet, but I was just talking.
No, they have. They have their own language.
Really?
And we're locked out.
Oh, okay. Have they started that? Really? And can you recognize that the one says something and then it changes the other? Or are they just babbling to one another?
They're babbling to one another, but they have developed a very intense interest in each other.
Right. Because it first starts with them, and now they're seeing the other as
the whole time is like we're giving them breakfast, and they'll be like, "Are we eating?" And if the one's eating, the other one's like, "Yeah, I might try it." And if the other one's not eating, it's like, "I don't like this breakfast."
They're building a front, the People's Front of Judea. No, it's the Judea People's Front.
It's like, yeah, let me play with that crinkly bag again, and I might have some breakfast.
Yeah. They're going to develop that creepy twin language that's going to be like, oogali bagadi da ga ga. My sisters had that for a little while. They would do this weird. They had this weird shorthand, but they were a year apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, so another time that I found out something wasn't real was there ain't no blowjobs in the champagne room. And that's...
What?
Ain't no blowjobs in the champagne room. No, it's an old Chris Rock thing. Yeah. And what I love about that is that there's a lot of things that we think are real, but they just don't exist. Like
what?
Like success. I mean, you can have successes, but there is no such thing as I've landed. I've made it.
You mean you have to keep working at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's Right.
Like the American dream.
That does definitely not exist. Yeah, unless you're an heir to a huge fortune.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with the dream then.
Yeah.
And what I love George Carlin's thing about the American dream. He said, you know why they call it the American dream? Because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Believe it, yeah. Man, that guy, George Carlin and Christopher Hitchens, like two of the most missed dead people.
So, but what I mean is by that is like, I see it when I'm on tour and you do a show, maybe it's at a festival, maybe it's a thing. And then after the show, there's a backstage area and you get some fans that come backstage. Mm-hmm. And you see it in their faces, how much they believe in the backstage. They don't realize that that's not real.
Just people working back here.
It's just people working there, or it's a bunch of performers that are a little tired and are having drinks and talking to each other, or saying things to each other like
nobody's getting blowjobs and
yeah. There's no blowjobs in the champagne room. Nobody's
no, I get it. Yeah.
Now I have been.
There's not even a champagne room back there.
Yeah. Now there have been backstages where it's gotten crazy and the party's really fun, but it doesn't really exist. It's like the shine of Hollywood. It's like there's a lot of those things that don't really exist.
Yeah. I was backstage at a Falco concert.
Okay.
In 1993.
Dang.
And him and his whole entourage were extremely coked up.
Yeah.
And that was like weird because it was this shitty little concert on the Danube.
Yeah.
Maybe like 800, maybe 1,000 guests.
But the backstage
was like we're in the dressing room. The whole band got in there. They had the door open. The lines of Coke were all along the table. Everybody got in there. Falco walked out on stage going like this.
Yeah.
While the band was already playing,
Yeah, sure. Which I think is, that moment, those moments do exist, but they are so far and few between. They're so Fata Morgana-atic.
But this, they were coked up. And there was lots of cocaine, but it was a shitty little gig.
Yeah.
It was in a tent.
Yeah. They were making the most of it.
I was backstage. I wasn't even in a band. I was somebody's friend,
I got backstage. How cool could this party actually be?
It was not a cool party.
Yeah. It was certainly not a cool party. So what else? Is there anything else that you thought was real and you realized, okay,
so for
it's
a
not really
long
real?
time as a kid, because we were friends because my mom had this friend, and I can't remember her name, but I remember where they lived, the road, and they had 2 kids, and one of them was called Greg. And we used to hang out there quite a lot because my mom was friends with their mom. We weren't particularly good friends with the kids, but it was okay. We'd spend quite a lot of time there. And they had this collection of records for children. Mm-hmm. And most of them were Batman and Superman.
Batman records. Oh, nice.
LP records, right?
With the cartoon of them on the front?
Yeah.
Like...
And... and they had this big Scalextrix.
Cool! Like a Monza track.
Yeah, that we'd set up in the.
No, what do they call that? Not Monza. What do they call it in German?
I might think of it. Anyway,
yeah.
So we'd spend hours listening to these Batman and Superman records, mm-hmm. and these kids, having grown up with this lore,
right?
Were like, so Superman is an invented character, but Batman is a real person with superpowers, right? So I was like 6 or 7 at this time. Oh, right, so Batman's real, and Superman isn't. And then somewhere along the line, I was like, they're both comic book characters.
None of this shit is real.
None of them's real. And I don't know how old I was when I figured that out. And I think it was quite a long time, because those things that you accept as a kid, and there was no reason to question them, or you didn't question them for whatever reasons, you kind of carry them with you for ages.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I've been wrong about that.
Yeah. American exceptionalism doesn't exist. I think there's a lot of mythical things. In any case, those are some things that you find out aren't real. If you think of any other things that aren't real, there's no more time for it, because we've come to the end of chapter 3.
That's what the chat says.
All right. The chat says most. That's what the chat is going to remind you. Me too, Michael. It's a quick trip with baggage. Oh, he was very sad that he couldn't see you because it was quick trip. When I found out my mom didn't have the third eye, I could see in the back of my head. I got eyes in the back of my head. I got a third eye that knows exactly what you're doing.
You were terrified until your 7th birthday.
Yeah.
Uncle Eric gave Aunt Sam a hard time because he thought she made me cry.
Oh, okay. So Uncle Eric was Aunt Sam's husband, and he must have come into the kitchen, and my mom. Oh, maybe I came out and told her. Oh, right. I don't know if I don't remember. I don't have that as part of my memory of confronting Philly Girl about that moment. But maybe I guess I did. Maybe
the creepy twins language. Yeah. They're doing this thing, and they're going, and then they play with the ball. And you're like, are they communicating about that?
No, I don't think they're communicating yet, but they are pretending. They're probably just emulating, right?
They're kind of making up this thing where they like kind of talk to each other, and then they kind of talk to me as well.
Yeah. Well, Ember does that all the time. What I love about Ember is when I talk to, if somebody's going, or saying goofy shit to her, but if you go, so how you feeling today? She'll look at you like, I don't know if she still does that, but the last couple of times I saw her, she was constantly like, if you talked real to her, she would look at you and be interested and be totally cool. And as soon as you started goofing around, she'd be like, yeah, I don't care about this.
Not my experience.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I've got a different relationship with her. She and I are down on a different level.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
You know.
Yeah. Slot cars, yes.
Slot cars. So I never had those when I was a kid, but at Christmas time, one of the people that I was staying with, she got them for Christmas, and I set up.
Like now?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I set up the whole track. It had a double loop,
And banked curves.
And a bank. It had a bank curve. It had a ramp that went up over and then down into a double loop.
Nice.
Yeah. It had it would go underneath to the bank curve and then up around the double loop. It was super cool. Yeah. In any case, that's chapter 3.
And we're out.
And we're out. So I think we should have one more slurp before.
I think we should. And today's date is the 12th. So this is the second Thorsday in this month.
This was the second Thursday in this month, yes.
So I'm going to say we should try and hit the 4th Thorsday in this month. But this is up to compromise.
This is up to compromise.
And
there's a lot happening.
We will inform in the chat on the ISBAZ HQ.
Yeah.
And then from February on, we're going to have to decide what we wanted to go. 1-1-3 or 2-4.
We're going to try to make something regular, and we're going to work on that very, very soon. It's time to get this back. And hopefully by then we'll be out of the gray zone. And we'll be into the new...
You can't touch it.
You can't touch it.
You can't touch it.
Can't touch this. In February, see, the thing is, in February, I'm very excited about this, and maybe I won't get a chance to talk about it, but in February, I'm going to teach at the Ernst Busch Schule in Berlin.
Oh, yeah. The premier German acting school to go to.
I am so thrilled. I just recently spoke... Again,
did you have to compromise on how much they're paying you?
I did have to compromise a little bit. Yeah, they didn't have nearly as much money as the Reinhardt Seminar. But I think this is going to be longer term, which is nice.
Okay, that's nice too.
Mm-hmm. But we'll figure that out. We're super glad that you all showed up for this, and we hope you keep showing up for this. We're going to try to make it happen. We also have a super secret surprise about some spies, but we're not going to tell you about that yet.
The funky.
The funky monkeys. And we're just really glad. So let's go through and say goodnight to
Andrew
and Philly Girl.
Pavlov.
Marcus.
Follower of Clay.
And Muchacho.
And Verena.
And that's everybody in the chat.
That's everybody in the chat, but thank you for posting so many things.
Yes, you guys were rocking it.
It's like this chat looks like 100 people.
I love it.
But it's just the Isbazites.
It's just the Isbazites.
Like, if you got one Isbazite, you got 100 normal people.
Exactly. So thank you all very, very much, and we will hopefully...
Isbazites are like the Spartans. You only need like a couple of them.
Against the hordes.
Millions.
Against the millions.
The hordes of Persians. 300 Isbaz. Give me 300 good Isbazites.
This is Isbaz. So in Leipzig, there's a series. There's like a chain of banks. I don't know if they are in different cities in Germany as well, but they're called.
Somebody new. Biker 732,000.
Biker 732,000.
Waited right till the last fucking minute.
Biker 73,000. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by.
73,000.
73,000.
Nice.
But there's a chain of banks in Leipzig called Sparda.
I know them.
Okay, and I'm like, this is like fish in a barrel. I need to go to these guys and be like, okay, you just get a bunch of like business dudes in suits, a little fat, have them put their ties around their heads and just, hold up hole punchers saying, this is Sparta!
Sparta banks down on Westbahn as well.
Really? There's in Austria? I've never, on Westbahnhof? Sparta?
Sparda.
Yeah, I've never seen that in Austria.
They are the bank for the Austrian railways, which means they're in Linz, they're on Westbahnhof.
What?
And they're somewhere, they're at the railway stations.
Crazy. I've never heard of this. In any case,
I used to have an account with them.
Wild. Thank you all very, very much. Please take care of yourselves, and if you can, take care of somebody else. And remember, no matter what the subject,
or what it was about,
even if you disagree,
you can always compromise.
or hug it out. Hug it out?
Hug it out. Hug it out.
Hug it out, everybody.
Bring it on.
Best is baz ever.
Death best is best ever.
Didn't even let the credits finish.
Nope, I had lots of vodka.